cc is this bike? How do you drive with only one eye? How do you have a motorcycle? Don't you drive bears in Russia?
Is that a KTM Duke 390? 390? 390? What am I, fucking gay? So, this is my KTM 1290 Super Duke R 2019, and today I would like to mix up some POV riding and some third-person talking, and I would like to tell you about the negative and positive sides of why I decided to take this bike, and also I've gotten a lot of questions why I decided to go for a naked bike instead of a sport bike. The first positive and good thing that I like about a naked bike is their ability to accelerate very, very fast. They have pretty torquey, extremely torquey and low RPM engines, where when you press the gas even a little bit, when you push the throttle just a little bit, it immediately accelerates, which gives a lot of advantage in city traffic riding. It's actually really, really good for me because I live in a city with, I think, around 15 million people, and there is a lot of traffic, and this ability to accelerate fast and switch between cars on lower speeds is why I decided to go for a naked bike.
The main idea of this bike is its ability to accelerate very, very fast, which could be a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. Right now we're riding in a city. In a city I usually don't prefer riding on like very, very high speeds. Yeah, so in cities I prefer to ride on a pretty low speed. I don't prefer to like ride extremely fast, but when you are on a highway it's a completely different story. So you see, like, it just allows you to be faster than cars and accelerates pretty fast. It's a very torquey bike, which is great. Like, it gives you ability to just, you know, boom, boom. Like, it's great for city riding, you know?
And the second thing that I really like about this bike, and I like about naked bikes, is their sitting position. So one of the biggest benefits of this bike is it allows you to sit pretty straight, and it's very comfortable riding like this. Instead of riding like this on a sport bike, I actually have another sport bike that I'm gonna show the footage of right now. And this sitting position like this allows you, it's also like higher than on sport bikes because this bike is naturally taller, right? It allows you to see furthermore above the cars. While you're on a sport bike, you barely can see shit. And after sitting like this for a couple of, I don't know, hours or even after an hour, your back starts to hurt a lot. Meanwhile, I'm just casually riding like this and it's pretty comfortable.
This bike is very tall. It's one of the tallest naked bikes, I think. Most of my friends who are like 170, 175 centimeters tall, they don't even like, they can't even touch their legs on this bike. Meanwhile, you see I'm sitting pretty comfortable here, and this sitting position not only allows you to see higher, you know, because it's very important when you see things higher, it also allows you to be more comfortable on a bike. So we're gonna go on a highway very soon, and you will understand why this bike for highway is not the best thing that humanity has ever created. Even though for city, I think it's one of the best bikes you can get. All the naked bikes are pretty good for city riding, but when we go on a highway and you want to drive on higher speeds, it becomes pretty uncomfortable. What can I say? So why it becomes uncomfortable is when you're riding on a significantly faster speeds, it doesn't have any wind protection. And that is something that I don't really like, because it just doesn't give you the ability to ride on like 170, 180, 200 even for a long period of time. Your neck, it just starts hurting, you know, and it's not the best feeling.
And the third thing that I really like about this bike is the fact that the steering range, the range of how much you can actually adjust your wheel, is way, way wider than on a regular sport bike, which allows me to be actually way more maneuverable on a lower change of speed. Of course, you don't do this on higher speeds, it doesn't really matter because you control your bike with your body, but when you're doing like lower speed turns between cars, especially in traffic where you need to switch lanes and stuff like that, when you need to turn between cars, it actually gives a lot of advantage, while on a sport bike you're barely...
So, lane splitting. As I've already said, this bike has a pretty wide steering wheel, which allows to do more maneuvers, but at the same time when you're lane splitting, it doesn't really allow you to, it takes more space, it's wider angle on the steering wheel. But if you know how to ride, it shouldn't be a big problem. Another talking point that I wanted to mention is that this bike eats a lot of fucking fuel, a lot. So this route that I took to record this video usually takes me around like 30 minutes both sides. Not both sides, so 30 minutes one side to and other side, yeah? And the main problem that I see is that in those 30 minutes in pretty active riding, this thing literally just takes like, I don't know, 30% of the tank. I think this tank is like around, how much is it? I think either 17 or 19 liters. And I think it can eat up to 9 liters of gas for 100 kilometers, which is fucking crazy. So as you can see, it's not very, like this highway, it's pretty crowded. Meanwhile, I'm talking, there are two things that I'm not that good of a rider to talk and drive on very high speeds at the same time, also do the lane splitting. So I either drive pretty chill and talk, or I do more splitting and stuff, but then I have to be quiet because I need to be focused. Woo! I think there's a bit of traffic, so maybe I can show you how this bike performs better in traffic. Alright, this is what I like about a motorcycle. As you can see, well, obviously it's pretty loud exhaust and cars are noticing us. I'm even gonna go on the first gear. As you can see, like, it just allows you to, all these cars, to skip the traffic. So if your goal is to go from point 1 to point 2, point A to point B, the motorcycle is a perfect choice, especially if you live in a place where you have good weather. Yeah? So what do I identify as a good weather? When it's not negative degrees Celsius, pretty much. I can ride in +1 Celsius with a pretty warm gear and I wouldn't have a single problem with it. Yeah, the traction is not that good, but it's not a big deal for me. I live in a country where I can only ride for maybe like 5 months, and for these 5 months I want to utilize the bike as much as it's physically possible. When I'm lane splitting, as you can see, I don't prefer to go ridiculously fast because, you know, people are changing lanes. I live in Russia, people drive like retards here all the time. So I usually prefer to take the road as like everyone on the road is not seeing me and everyone on the road is trying to kill me, you know? In that way, you're in the safest way possible all the time. You know that every single time people don't see you, you have to assume that. And that's how I've been riding for all my seasons. And thanks to God, I never had a single car accident or like motorcycle accident, but it's just basically not a single accident. I really hope that this POV just gives you like a good demonstration of how fast, how ridiculously fast this bike accelerates. And as you can see, all these cars, they're sitting here. Meanwhile, oh, thank you. Meanwhile, I'm going, which is great. Of course, when I ride, I enable all electronics because I am scared to hell of this bike. I'm terrified because it's so incredibly torquey that if you don't enable traction control and wheelie control, every time you open the throttle just a little bit, it will lift up the front wheel. This bike is also called the ultimate wheelie machine because it's so incredibly torquey. I think it's one of the torqueyest naked bikes in the entire scene of motorcycles. I think it's great that I show you this bike, not on perfect, like, you know, track conditions, but in an actual, like, what I decided to buy it for. Like, I decided to buy it to avoid traffic, and I'm actually doing that right now. I don't drive on ridiculously fast speeds because, you know, that's pretty 90, 100, 120, it's not really like fast for this bike, but how fast it goes to these numbers is actually incredible.
Now let's talk about the things that I don't like about this bike. First of all, is it doesn't have a windscreen protection at all. So even though it's a very torquey and a very powerful bike that can go actually above like 250 kilometers an hour, I think the top speed of this bike is like 287, it's unbearable, physically impossible to ride on this bike above probably like 150, 160. When you're riding on this bike with no wind protection, it doesn't matter about your riding position. Even if you sit on a bike like this, your neck, because of the wind, it just doesn't allow you to go, like, of course you can go even 200, 220, but not for a long time. So like this bike doesn't allow you to drive very, very fast for a long period of time because it just breaks your neck. The wind just, it completely blows you off the motorcycle. Before we continue, let me introduce today's video partner, SkinClub. But you have to be 18 plus to play on a site. They're one of the biggest case opening sites out there with instant withdrawal system. They got daily cases to open, lots of fun game modes to choose from, and a huge variety of deposit methods. I played on the site myself, and as you can see, I managed to profit in a matter of seconds. After that, I tried my luck in case battles where I instantly won in a 2 versus 2. And then, I withdrew my skins and immediately got them in my inventory. If you wanna check them out, use my link in the description for a deposit bonus, and now let's get on with the video.
This bike is not beginner friendly. Obviously, if you are not into bikes and you're like, oh, I want to get, for example, this bike, a Super Duke, I would never recommend it. I've been riding for a pretty long time, and outside of that, as you can probably tell, I'm not the skilless driver on earth, or I'm nowhere near of being called skilled driver. I drive pretty safe. Of course, when it's night and there are no cars at all, of course I'm gonna go way faster. Obviously, it's basic motorcycle 101. If you have the ability to open the throttle, you need to open it. Because why the fuck would you buy a 200 horsepower 1300cc bike if you don't even know how to open the throttle? The bike gives you emotion, which is great, but at the same time you need to be very responsible, because this transport, this vehicle, it can kill you. And I pray to God that every single person who maybe gets inspired by me to buy a bike will be safe. As I was saying, this is not a beginner-friendly bike at all. Even though this bike has a lot of electronics to support your riding in a pretty passive manner, just because it's a 2-cylinder V-twin engine and it has a lot of torque, even if you ride in a rain mode, which reduces the power of the bike by 290 horsepower instead of 190, so it reduces the 100 horsepower that this bike offers when you're riding in a street mode or in a sport mode. But what I also like about this bike is that it's incredibly light. It's a pretty big bike with a pretty big engine, but it's so light. It honestly doesn't feel like you're riding, I don't know, it feels like you're riding a 700, 600. It's just ridiculously lightweight. It feels like a feather when you're controlling it. Even though it's pretty tall and it has the balance point of this bike, it should be higher, yeah? But at the same time, it feels like, I don't know, it feels incredibly light, which I enjoy a lot. And also, yeah, the reason why it's not beginner friendly, as I said, it accelerates ridiculously fast, and you should also know how to like control yourself, because this bike goes 0 to 100 in, I think, 3 seconds or even less. And when this happens, pretty much, you know, you need to be responsible, very responsible, which I think I am. I know my limit, and as I said, I don't consider myself a good rider or a skilled rider or anything like this, but I practice my skills. I do stunt riding for almost 3 years, even though I am scared to wheelie this bike, and I also do track racing, and I practice my skills there, because I think that every motorcycle rider needs a lot of practice. Because if you're just riding, especially if you're trying to ride fast and you are alive at this point, pretty much you're just lucky.
Thing number 2 that I don't like about this bike, well, it's not really something that I don't like, it's just the fact that it has a pretty wide steering wheel. Sport bikes have it like this, and it allows them to be more, they take less of space when you're driving between lanes. Yeah, so when you're driving between lanes, sometimes I have to remove even additional parts here to make them even shorter, because sometimes I accidentally touched other cars' mirrors when you're driving between lanes, even though the bike itself fits. Because of the wide steering wheel, sometimes it's like you need to like control it, and it's not very comfortable, especially in a pretty like tight space.
Talking about lane splitting here, by the way, as you can see, the steering range of the wheel allows me to do pretty wide turns.
And the last thing that I don't like, or maybe it's kind of something that I like and don't like about this bike at the same time, is that it's very, very angry type of a bike. So it's insanely torquey, it accelerates ridiculously fast. So if you don't know about motorcycles, but you know about cars, this is pretty much a Tesla 1000 horsepower Tesla play. It goes like around 3 seconds, 2.9 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour, so like 60 miles per hour if you're American retarded monkey. And the thing here is when you're driving fast, you open the throttle just a little bit and it just like explodes immediately, which is good, but in some situations it could be bad, because like you cannot lower the amount of horsepower and the amount of torque this bike has unless you enable the rain mode, but that's specifically for rain.
So the electronics that are in this motorcycle, they allow the bike to be safer. wheelie control, traction control, ABS, cornering ABS and stuff like this. It's perfect, it's great, but the bike still has a lot of torque. And I think if you want to get a naked bike, nakeds in casual riding are significantly more dangerous than sport bikes. Just because sport bikes, usually it's a 4-cylinder 1000cc engine, and it allows you to, when you open the throttle, nothing happens, you know? It's like, and then only after that you need to open the throttle, wait a little bit, after that it accelerates. This bike, on the other hand, accelerates immediately. It accelerates on ridiculous, very fast response. Also, I'd like to talk about the fact that I have a very loud exhaust, and it was also done for the safety reasons. The main safety reason here is that other cars, when they hear me, they know I'm there. They're not gonna try to cut me off and stuff like this. Oh, riding this thing in a sport mode, you need to be even, like for example, I was concentrated 100% when I was riding in street mode back there, but now I'm riding in sport mode, so I need to be even more concentrated, because this thing, oh. You see, I always double guess. Like even if there is enough space, I make sure to stop a little bit in front of the car to make sure he sees me, to make sure he hears me, and only after that. So I don't do, we call it, people in Russia call it blind splitting. I never do that. So like in situations like this, I make sure that these people, they all hear me, they all see me, and I don't do any very like sharp turns in a way. I try to stay away from cars as much as it's physically possible, and I also try to avoid all types of potential accidents where people can be like rushing into me or turning into me, or so it's always like it's like you're playing high elo faced pug, you know, if you compare it to CS. You always analyze, always use your brain and stuff like this. This is what I prefer to do. I'm trying to read as much as I can what this car is gonna do, where this car is gonna go. Like for example, if I go into this lane, right, is someone else gonna turn from the left lane to another? So if that happens, I need to slow down and stuff like that. There goes the traffic, my favorite part. So you see, I'm slowing down, making sure that this guy hears me, not going significantly close. Then I avoid this guy. This guy turned, thank you so much to him, need to say thank you. Then I'm turning here, making sure everyone hears me, making sure everyone like understands that I'm riding a bike. There is not enough space here. Now there is. Then I turn, boom, perfect, thank you so much. This is what this bike is made for, in my opinion. Of course, that you could get like a MT-07 and do the same thing, yeah, but it's gonna be like on MT-07, it's a little bit different. The difference in acceleration is just way too big. You see, I make sure this guy sees me. He turned a little bit to the left, to the right, and then only after that I turn. Now I'm slowing down a little bit because they're going lower speeds. I'm not trying to blind split again, making sure all these people see me. After that, yes, I'm turning. After that, I'm going, making sure this guy sees me going a little bit to the left. Bam! It's basic lane splitting. It's not illegal. Now I press a little bit of the clutch. It's not illegal in Russia, and it also, I need to make sure all these people see me. It's also like, it's not illegal what I'm doing. I know that in America, especially in Texas, there is no lane splitting, and also, but also in Texas, there is no chase policy, so no cop, no issue, am I right? You see, this guy sees me, thank you so much for letting me pass. And you see, all these cars, you save up so much time by riding a motorcycle, which I love. If I had the chance to drive a motorcycle in a country where there is like always good weather and everything, I would. I don't have a chance like this. I can only ride maybe 5, sometimes even 4 months, because you don't even ride all these 5 months. For example, you start in April, you finish in October, something like that. But half of the time, half of the months, it's raining, you know? To record, I've been trying to record this video for like a week because I needed to find specific days when it's not raining. And it's actually great that I can show you the main usage of this bike. Not just going, I don't know, 250 kilometers an hour on a fucking perfect road with no cars. No, I live in a country where there is 15 million people, you know, and there are a lot of traffic, a lot of cars. And I'm actually considering, I'm getting a sport bike very, very soon, but I'm doing it specifically for the reasons of my own, to ride for enjoyment. But every time I need a city ride, every time I need to get myself like from point A to point B, and especially if there is traffic, I'm taking this one. I'm taking this one 10 out of 10 times. The reason why I'm not accelerating right now is because I thought they were about to stop there, but they were not. So I didn't want to get into the way of this car. And we're back in the city. There we are with the lane splitting torque. As you can see, I have to be very accurate, very precise, not fuck things up. More lane splitting, let's go. Woo! I prefer to clutch up here just to kind of roll, you know? I don't know, it just feels more comfortable to me, more natural. But it depends. If you want an engine brake, you shouldn't hold your clutch, obviously. And we're back in the city. We're back exactly where we came from. I also don't know what else can I talk to you guys about, but I really hope that you enjoyed this vlog or this review. It's not really a vlog. It's like half review, half me riding and talking. I really hope that I can make it good for you. On the roundabouts you have to be very careful because people don't know the rules. Also, one thing I like about this bike is you can see this lane is turning specifically to the right, but I need to go to the left. As you can see, this BMW is a little bit, let's say this one is stuck. What I can do, okay, what I can do, then I go right here, then I go right here, and there we go. I mean, you can do it just like this car, but if there is a camera, this guy caught, I'm not getting caught by the camera, because it's a motorcycle. It only has a license plate behind. So, I really hope you guys enjoyed this review. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go and wash my bike, because it's been dirty, but at least I'm not showing you like everything is perfect. I ride this bike very often, that's why I sometimes ride in the rain when there is a need to go from point A to point B. So yeah, gonna go wash it now, and after that pretty much gonna go home because I woke up very early. It's like 6 in the morning. I woke up at 5 just to ride with you guys today in a good sunlight before the rain, because it should be raining today, as you can see by the weather and the clouds. So I really appreciate you watching. I've also purchased a car recently, just recently, I think around 1.5 weeks ago. I haven't announced it anywhere, I haven't like mentioned it anywhere, but if you would want a review for my car, it's a very expensive car, that's what I'm gonna tell you for sure. Very powerful. Please let me know and let's get this video to 1,000 likes. Appreciate you guys, God bless you, I'm out.